In a small village nestled among the hills of ancient Israel, the sun rose on another day of despair for a grieving widow. Her husband, a faithful servant of the Lord and a prophet, had passed away. She was left with nothing, no money, no means to earn a living, and 2 sons whom she loved more than life itself. But now even they were under threat. The creditor had come, demanding payment. And with no payment to give, he threatened to take her sons as slaves. Can you imagine her heartache? The loss of her husband, the looming loss of her children, the crushing weight of helplessness pressing in on all sides. She was desperate. But she was not without faith. So she went to Elisha, the prophet of God, the man who had seen the power of heaven fall like fire. She cried out to him, "Your servant my husband is dead, and you know that he feared the Lord. But the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons to be his slaves." Elisha turned to her, and with the calm of someone who walked closely with God, he asked her a simple question, "What shall I do for you? Tell me, what do you have in the house?" The woman paused. She looked around at the empty space that had once been full of life and love. Her voice trembled. "Your maidservant has nothing in the house but a jar of oil. Just 1 small jar. That's all she had left. But in God's hands, it was more than enough." Elisha looked at her and gave her an instruction, strange to the natural ear, yet infused with divine purpose. He said, "Go, borrow vessels from everywhere, from all your neighbors, empty vessels, do not gather just a few." It was a command rooted in faith. She had no idea what would happen next. But Elisha's voice carried the authority of heaven. She obeyed. She and her sons went door to door, humbly asking neighbors for their empty jars. Small ones, large ones, cracked ones, smooth ones, they gathered as many as they could carry. No questions asked. Just obedience. Then Elisha said, "And when you have come in, you shall shut the door behind you and your sons, then pour it into all those vessels, and set aside the full ones." Shut the door. Sometimes God asks us to close the door to the outside noise, the doubting voices, the fear, and the logic. Miracles often happen behind closed doors, in the quiet places where faith is louder than sight. So she did as she was told. She took her 1 jar of oil, small and insignificant in her hands, and began to pour. The oil flowed steadily, endlessly, filling jar after jar. Each time her sons brought another, she filled it to the brim. The oil did not stop. Her hands may have trembled, her eyes wide with awe, but her heart beat with the realization that God was at work in her midst. "Bring me another vessel," she said. "There is not another," her son replied. And only then, when every vessel was full, did the oil cease to flow. It wasn't the size of her oil that determined the blessing. It was the size of her obedience. She gathered many vessels, and God filled them all. If she had gathered only a few, He would have filled only a few. But her faith made room for abundance. She returned to Elisha, amazed, trembling with gratitude. He looked at her and said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debt, and you and your sons live on the rest." Freedom. Provision. A future. Her life had shifted from desperation to abundance in a matter of hours. Not because of great wealth or influence, but because of great trust in a great God. This is the nature of the God we serve. He sees the widow, the broken, the fearful, the desperate. He doesn't need much, just a jar, just a seed, just a mustard grain of faith. He multiplies what we surrender. He fills the emptiness when we bring Him vessels. He moves in our lack to show us His abundance. Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "Fear not, for I am with you, be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, yes, I will help you." The widow's story reminds us that God is not limited by what we don't have. He is moved by what we do with what we do have. In the face of death, He gave her resources. In the face of slavery, He gave her freedom. In the face of despair, he gave her hope. So what's in your house? What little do you have left? A small gift. A dream you've shelved. A whisper of hope you barely dare to believe in. Bring it. Bring your jar. Bring your empty vessels. Bring your faith. God is still the God of the overflow. He still multiplies what's poured out in trust. He still works behind closed doors. He still takes small things and does mighty miracles. Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, Ephesians 3 verse 20. Let the story of the widow's oil pour fresh hope into your soul. Let it remind you that when you put what you have into the hands of God, you always have more than enough. Trust him. Obey him. And watch the oil flow. What lesson did you learn from this video? Type it below. Join us in the next clip. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like, comment, share and subscribe. God bless you.